Hey everyone, welcome back to Q Live. It's so good to see you. My name is Bill Selleck, pronouns are he, him, and I'm Director of Technology at Hillbrook School. I am also a board member of NAMELY, the National Association Media Literacy Education Organization. And I'm so excited to be here with Stephanie. Stephanie, who are you? What do you do? Why are you here?
Well, like you, Bill, I'm also a board member for Namely. And in addition to that, in my other life, I'm actually a professor of teacher education at Loyola University, Maryland, in Baltimore, Maryland. So on the other coast. And I teach teachers full time and I teach media literacy as well. So it's great to be here. Oh, in terms of the conference that we're here to talk to you about, I'm actually a co-chair of the conference, so I'm looking forward to sharing some of that with you.
I am
Bill,
muted. That is so embarrassing. That happens. It's as though we haven't had a pandemic for 2 years. I don't know the last time I did that. Um, you were just talking about the conference. I had such a great transition as well, and that's all right. That happens to everyone. So if you are listening and you have been on mute before, and you have, you're in good company. So there's nothing magical about us on Q Live. Um, Tell us about the Namely Conference. I dropped the link right down here. That's where I was pointing.
yeah, sure. So we've been doing these conferences for quite some time now, but actually they've usually been like every other year, and this is the first year that we had a conference last summer, and our theme last year was media literacy and social justice. This coming year, actually, given all that's happening in the world, we feel that we want to have conversations about expanding the presence of media literacy in our schools, in lots of institutions that are important, so that our students have the opportunity to be able to sift through mis and disinformation, which is the top of mind of a lot of people, especially in these days of the crisis happening in Ukraine, but as well during the 2016 election that went on for quite some time in terms of the discussion around that. Issues like that are prevalent, and we want our students to be well informed and critical consumers of media and popular culture. So now we're having this conference every year, and this year in particular, what our theme is to level up. Leveling up in media literacy for us means that we want to see media literacy exist in many more spaces throughout schools and in other institutions. So
Yeah.
that's what we're doing this year.
I love that. I also love that it can mean so many different things. I thought like as a tech director, how can we actually level up what we're doing around media literacy education? We're already doing so much. How do we do even more, or how do we take those existing lessons and make them just that much more richer? There's so many different ways to do it. I also love if you hop on namelyconference.net, some of the graphics we're doing. Got a great team behind us. Got some like 80s themed icons, graphics. It's going to be great.
Yeah, and
Fantastic.
this graphic actually was released last year, and there are media literacy monsters. It's hard to see them right here, but when you go to our website, you'll see those different monsters that actually kind of correspond with. Hey, there they are. Various
There we
ways
are.
to think about how, especially young children, can be critical consumers of media and popular culture. So one of the things, like early on, Bill, that I used to hear all the time, having taught media literacy for over 20 years now, is, hey, is media literacy about how to build a website, or is media literacy how to make a, remember, web quests, those kind of things.
Yeah, I remember those. I remember
Technology
WebQuest.
lingo.
Nice
And
shout.
that's right, and I always used to have to say, no, it's not just making media, it's really being critical consumers of media. So there are a lot of different ways that we can have our students engage, and obviously with what Q does, I'm sure this is incredibly important.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a couple media literacy sessions coming up that I'm pretty excited about. Hoping to get those presenters on Q Live as well. These media monsters, by the way, we're doing some stuff with our third graders around the media monsters. Fourth grader piloting a couple new lessons that Namely's putting out. So it's going to be, yeah, they're really good resources. If you've not checked them out, I recommend them. Stephanie, can we take just a step back? I know a lot of people listening actually don't know Namely. Can you tell us like a little bit about this organization, how people might get involved in addition to how they're active in Q?
Absolutely, sure. You can go to the website first of all, and you can see that the membership is actually free to belong to, namely, which is terrific. And with that membership, you get access to an abundance of resources that Namely shares out from their own allied organizations, which include a lot of the major accrediting organizations for teachers, like the National Council for Social Studies, the National Council for Teachers of English, and many other sorts of, those accrediting kinds of organizations also involve themselves in media literacy in different ways. And Namely is kind of a good clearinghouse that'll share out that information for teachers. And we have other organizations that write media literacy curriculum that teachers can use in their own classrooms. And then obviously there's the opportunity for the conference in the summer, and in the fall we have Media Literacy Week. That's a week-long opportunity for people to either get involved or have your students participate and listen to things, to engage in sessions, or be a person who delivers a session. There's all kinds of opportunities there.
Yeah, oh my gosh. How many different things did we have going last fall? Was it like 100 different things? 200? It was
Yeah,
so many. I could not believe I just kept scrolling on the spreadsheet. It was like there's so many amazing resources.
absolutely. Yeah.
So many, yeah,
And it's tough because sometimes these types of resources, they don't exist for teachers in other more traditional sorts of venues. And so
sure.
Namely is a great clearinghouse to help teachers be able to find those places where you can add this to your curriculum and help your students become more media literate.
Yeah. So Stephanie, you know that I've been just, deeply involved in Q for a number of years. I'm newer on the scene to Namely. I hadn't heard of it in, up until just a couple years ago. I'm almost embarrassed to share that it just wasn't on my radar. So I think this is such like if you're one of my Q people, like you need to get connected with Namely. There's so much overlap and so many amazing people in both organizations. Just so much of the work is so well aligned. I can't like overstate, just how much you need to participate in both if you are an educator and a human. And if you're listening, you probably are both an educator and a human.
Not one
Yeah.
of those monsters necessarily.
No, no, not one of those monsters. Well, awesome. So, Stephanie, I dropped in some links. What are a couple other things like how can people find you? How can they connect with Namely? How can they, learn more about the conference? Obviously, the website. Anything else you want to share of how people can connect with you?
Sure. Yeah. I'm on Twitter at Flocool, Flokoul. And I post things related to social justice, media literacy, and other kind of teacher-friendly resources because I have some rock star grad students that I teach that I like to show off about. And so, sometimes you'll see me posting about them. The program I run is called the Curriculum and Instruction for Social Justice program at Loyola University, Maryland. And so that's another place. It's got a bit of a more clunkier title, but once you go to my Twitter, you'll see the Twitter handle for the program. And again, a lot of what I do is related to media literacy. I'm teaching it, and I've been a proponent for many years. I've seen the various iterations of Namely. So that you didn't know about Namely as not to be too much of an embarrassment, but it has gone through a few iterations. It's been Namely for quite some time now, but
Yeah.
I kind of found out about it back in the late 90s, actually. And it was a different iteration at that time, but it's changed a couple times. And now it's really solid and growing like a weed in a lot of ways, just because once again, people are aware, I think, more globally about the importance of ensuring that our students are media literate.
Yeah. And it's one of those, I think, once you find this organization, it's how did I live as an educator without this? There's so many great resources. And I also love, like you mentioned a little bit about being kind of a critical consumer of all media. I think it's also really powerful how you can be a critical creator. Like one thing I began shifting this last year with our students is as you're creating just even a simple video, like what are you trying to get other people to think? Like how are you trying to manipulate them? Because really that's what all media does. It wants someone to feel something or to think something new. And I think that's a powerful lever that we can, kind of pull with students and teach them. It's not just about consuming it. It's also when you're creating all that media that, you want to be thoughtful about what you want others, like how you want them to consume that media. And you get really rich conversations that way.
Fully agree with you, Bill, because one of the things I like to tell my students is that, we encourage students to write, and we know that by their writing, they become better readers.
Yep,
In
yep,
turn, if they're learning how to make media and they're thinking about the colors that they're choosing or the camera angles and the soundtracks, then when they go to consume media, they're going to see it in a wiser way. So you're
yeah,
absolutely right. I've
yeah.
always been a huge proponent about having students make media.
Yeah, I love that so much. Awesome. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us. Thank all of you for joining us again for another episode of Q Live. Follow us along on the hashtag Spring Q this year. And happy Spring Q, everybody. Thanks.